Okay, kids, this is Mr. Sheffield, and tonight we're going to be working on writing and solving two-step equations. I'm going to be honest with you, I've messed this video up twice right now with the timing. So this is time number 3. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about translating the following into an equation. So we're doing a little bit of review. So first we're going to say let n equal my number, because we have to identify our variable. And I'm going to look here and I'm going to say, all right, what's the first thing I'm going to do to the number? So twice a number means I'm going to multiply it by 2. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to take care, all right, this is what I'm doing to my number. Then I'm going to say, what's next? It says here I want 4 less than that number. So I'm going to take away 4 because I want 4 less than what I start with. The word is means equal, and then the answer is 6. Now that's review for us. So what we do is it says elementary algebra does not mean kindergarten algebra. It means basic. We're going to do some algebra basics. And the big thing here is that we call our letters variables. So what we do is we use algebra to solve equations. And we find values for our variables. So an equation is a mathematical statement that shows it does have an equal sign, but it shows the relationship of two expressions. So I might have 5 plus 4, and I might have 3 to the second power. Now, 5 plus 4 is an expression. It doesn't have an equal sign of its own. And 3 to the second power is an expression. Once I put the equal sign in there, it says something very specific about their relationship, that they have an equal value. 5 plus 4 is 9, and 3 times 3 is 9. That's the relationship. So the solution of an equation, we want to find the value of the variable that makes the equation true. In this case, that makes it equal. So if we have the example x plus 1 equals 5, it's very easy to see what is the value that makes the equation true. Well, it's x equals 4. We don't have to do any work there. We can see that 4 plus 1 is 5. That is the only value that will make this true. But we do have a process to actually show this and prove it. And in that process, we use inverse operations. And those are operations that undo one another. In other words, let's make a little note over here. Inverse operations are opposites. Meaning, I have subtraction, and its opposite is addition. I have multiplication, and its opposite is division. So take a moment and pause if you need to, and make sure you get all this written down. Please make sure you're spelling things correctly and that you're being neat about your work. That's one of the good things about being able to pause these videos. So now we're going to solve two-step equations. This is a key concept. In order to do that, we need to isolate the algebraic term. And we've talked about this in class. Isolating the algebraic term means we want to get the letter by itself. And to do that, we need to cancel the constant by using opposite operations. So we're going to make a little note box here, because I want to talk about some vocabulary, especially about what a constant is. So if I have the example 2x minus 3, the 2 is called the coefficient. The coefficient is the number that multiplies our variable. Well, the x obviously is our variable. So we've taken care of the number that multiplies the variable. That's our coefficient. The variable is our letter. In this case, I have that 3 And that's my constant. Because I'm going to take away 3, and here's why it's constant. A variable has a changing value. That's why the root word is vary. But 3 is 3 no matter where I go. That 3 means this many. Whether I'm in Hendry's room, Sullivan's room, at your house, my house, or in our classroom, that 3 means this many. It's constant. It will not change. And then the big key here is anything, when we're solving these equations, anything I do to one side of the equation, I must do on the other side. And we do the exact same thing. That is hugely important, because that's how we get the variable by itself. So let's turn the page and do a few examples. And again, it's pretty straightforward. This is stuff we've seen before. Should be a refresher. If I have 7x plus 15 equals 43, I'm going to balance out. I always like to chunk my variable term. It's a variable term because it has the 7 and the x together. And if you remember, that 7 is called the coefficient. The x is our variable, and in this case 15 is the constant. So to get rid of minus 15 or plus 15, I'll do minus 15. We do it on both sides, and we get 7x equal to 28. Now you should also remember that that means 7 times x, because no sign means multiply. So the opposite or inverse operation of multiplying by 7 would be to divide by 7. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, a fraction line is my division sign. I'm getting rid of the 7. Now I'm left with x all by itself. Divide 7 on the other side. You get x equals 4. Now in algebra, we have something called a check. And some of you might be moaning and groaning about the checks, but quite honestly, I always liked checking because I knew before I even went to class if my answer was right or wrong. So you take and write the original equation. 7x plus 15 equals 43. I take my answer and I plug it in right here. Now that doesn't mean 74. That means 7 times 4. No sign means multiply. So I do this. Now I'm just doing order of operations, multiply before addition. And hopefully, when I add these two guys up, they give me 43, which they do. So my answer checks. Now I want to look at B. B has a fraction in it, but there's no need to get all bunged up over it. When I divide by 3, I could say, well, I'm multiplying by 1/3. If I was dividing by 5, then I'd be multiplying by 1/5. If this was y over 10, then I'd be multiplying by 1/10. But I'm going to show how to do it just this way. So there's my variable term, my balance beam, opposite operation, -6, +6. So now I've got y over 3 on this side. Here you have to be careful. Remember, this is a -18 and a +6. I can't just add those guys together because they're not the same. They're not in the same gang. The negative gang is actually bigger, so in a fight they'd win because they have 12 more. So the answer of -18 plus 6 is -12. Now over here, remember, a fraction line is a division sign. So the opposite of dividing by 3 is to multiply by 3. So I always say the opposite of having the 3 on the bottom would be to put a 3 up on top, because that's how I would multiply y by 3. Now they're gone. I multiply this side by 3. Y equals, in this case I have a negative times a positive, -36. Pause if you need to. Rewind if you need to. All right, now I'm going to move over to this one. So I'm going to put a line separating, because there's two ways we can do this. So I want you to rewrite 8 minus x equals 12 over here. The first thing I can do is I can actually go ahead and subtract 8 from each side, like I've been doing. But if I do that, I'm left with negative x equals 4, because I can't just lose that negative sign on the way down. Well, really what that means is, it's kind of like I'm multiplying x by negative 1. So it really means negative 1x. So the opposite of multiplying by negative 1 would be to divide by negative 1. Now it cancels, and here you have x is going to equal negative 4. Now, here's the other way we can do it. I'll still draw my balance beam, but instead I'm going to add x to each side. Now, notice I did not write plus x right underneath the 12. So now I have a equals 12 plus x. Now I got x by itself. It's positive. I subtract 12 from each side. And now I have negative 4 equals x. It's the same answer, two different ways. Now what I'd like you to do is go ahead and you try numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to try to get as much of this done as I can. So I'm going to go fast. Just watch my steps. Balance beam. Just because it's a decimal, my rules don't change. Remember, you should be stopping the video now and trying these on your own, kids. So stop now, come back and see if you did it right. I get 4x equals 28.8. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. And you'll actually get x equals 7.2 on that division. Over here, no biggie, I'm going to chunk it. I need to get rid of that 5 first. I'm left with x over 2. 4 minus 5 gives me negative 1. Then remember what I said before. Opposite of divide by 2, multiply by 2. Opposite of 2 on bottom, 2 on top. Multiply by 2. X equals negative 2. Next one. Again, there's two ways you can do this one. I'll keep that there. I'll subtract my 6. Again, remember 3 minus 6 is going to leave me with a negative 3. Negative y. So remember, this really means negative 1 times y. So I'm really dividing by negative 1. They cancel. And y is going to actually equal positive 3. Because remember, a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. And then my last one, I'll subtract the 5 from each side. We haven't seen one like this, so I hope you tried it. There's my negative 2. I'm left with 2/3 x equals negative 2. Now, the opposite of having a 2 on top of a 3 would be to have a 3 on top of a 2. And that's exactly what we do. Now they cross cancel. I've left with x all by itself. I have to write 3 over 2 on this side. You have to go back and remember a little bit of a fraction rule. So we'll put this negative 2 over 1. So negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. 1 times 2 is 2. So x equals negative 6 over 2. But because we're in 8th grade, we're going to simplify that. 6 divided by 2 is 3. I have one negative. That means my answer is negative. Now, go back, look at what you need to do. Make sure you get all your answers. I hope you did try those on your own. But I think we're good to go now. And if you have any questions, bring them to class. And we'll have plenty of practice in class. Sorry about that. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.